Hey, it's Terry with Early Girls Yarn. I thought I would take you on a little bit of a vlog style how I knit my socks. I am not any prolific sock knitter. Um, I've just knit a bunch of them, and I'm always curious as to what other people do and what choices they make. So I thought I would take you along during sock week, and we'll do a little vlog of this sock. Here is the first one. It's already finished. So for this sock week, I am working on second socks. I have two different second socks. So let's start with the yarn is Freckled Whimsy. It's the June 2026 colorway. It's a 12 stripe repeat, which is important for a tip I'm going to be sharing. And the colorway is Dream Chaser. Now, first off, you'll notice on my first sock, I have all of these stitch markers and one fancier one here, little clover. I knit, most of my socks are knit using the vanilla sock knit, or the vanilla sock on the 9-inch circulars by Kayla, the crazy sock lady. I will attach her and link that down below. I learned from my good friend Lee, but then I used Kayla's video because, you know, when you learn from a friend, they can't sit right by you as you take this time, which takes time to knit a sock. They can't be with you the whole time. So having Kayla's video, I felt like I had a friend there, so it felt really good. So I use, which I bought 2 new ones, and that's a story for another time as to why I have 2 new needles when I already have 7 sock whips. We'll talk about that later. But I use ChiaoGoo 9-inch circulars. I personally use a size 1. I am a flicker, so it's an English style, but I flick the yarn. So 9-inch size 1 is my needle size. You've got to figure out what works for you. I've got some of my friends in my knitting group, my ladies, they use a size 0. One, I think, uses a 00, which is bananas to me. But whatever works for you, you've just got to figure out gauge. And in the beginning, you just have to try things out to see what's right for you. So that's the needle that I use. This is Sunday morning. I don't even know the date, July 12th. It's the first day of sock week. I have gotten up early because it's like Christmas morning. Anytime there's a new mystery knit along or a new knit along, the day the clue comes or the day it starts, I just get up early. So I've already cast on for Freckled Whimsy. She gives a 25-gram mini, not gives, you purchase a 25-gram mini with your 100-gram main skein. That is perfect. That is enough yarn for me to do heels, toes, and cuffs. And as I'll explain later, I make my heels a little longer, and I'll show you. So this is 15 rows of 1x1 ribbing, and I'm ready to add my main color. Now, the reason why I wanted to pop in and share, my socks aren't always matching perfect, but if I can, I try to. So if you see with this one, it started with a white. It's just how the yarn came. It started with the white, then the green, and I got down to this lovely blue color, which is the heels, toes, and cuffs, and then I needed a white to finish off. So to start again, the new sock, my yarn, I pull from the outside, it's at the green, which, I mean, is good because the green is the first color I use, but the sock to match perfectly needs to start at a white. So my choices would be to pull out from this green all the way down to here, to pull all of that yarn out. That is a lot of yarn to pull out. I do have other scrappy projects, but that's a ton. So instead, I pulled from the middle, and when I pulled from the middle, it was a color. It didn't matter what color, it was a color. So I pulled that out, and I'll use this in a different scrappy project. And now I've got white from the middle. So I'm going to use that white to knit this white right here, and then I'll attach my green and keep on knitting. It's going to work great. And that's a way for me to, instead of not wasting, but instead of pulling off a full big long color repeat to get where I needed to be, I just pulled this a little bit off. And again, that'll be used. I've got a scrappy project that I'll share down the road that I use for those types of scraps. Now, if you're curious about the bulb markers, that I got that from watching Kayla, and her video on vanilla socks, and she marks every 10 rounds. So for my cuff, I use a separate marker because I put it on when I first start, and then I move it up when I hit to 10, and now I'm at 15 on these. I'll actually pull this one off. I didn't use one. Sometimes if the yarn is close in color, I'll mark it after my 5 rows for my ribbing, so I know where to start for my regular knitting. I didn't do that this one because it's white and blue, so it was so easy to see and to count. So I'll pull this light bob marker off and just put it in the bag. And then when I knit every 10 rows, I'll actually pull the markers from the first sock, move it to the second sock so I can visually see my progress. I like that. Some people don't do that when they're doing self-striping yarn because they just count the stripes. I still count the rows, and it just makes me happy. So I have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 rows before I start the heel turn. It's a big day. As I said, woke up really early, but I am now going to be going out and mowing, then coming in and getting ready to go to church. We go to church. Then we're coming home. I'll have a little bit of time before we then leave for a musical. We're going to see Footloose today, but it's like an hour and a half away. So normally during like the school year, we don't drive quite that far to see musicals typically. Sometimes we do, but not as much as we have been. But during the summer, we do. So that is what we're doing. I won't have as much knitting time. If I could get the 50 rows done, that would be a huge victory, but we will see. But anyway, I wanted to pop in and share the tips and tricks before I add. Now, another thing I get asked a lot is, how do I join my yarn? I think it's called a Russian join. I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up. I know there's a video, but I will. So I actually broke the yarn 6 stitches before the beginning of round. And then I'll try and find that video and pop it in. But I loop this one, and then I'll take my white yarn, because that's what I have that I'm using, and I'll loop it around itself. Do you see how there's this join? And then I'll knit it double for a few stitches because I feel like that really secures my yarn. I'll still have little ends to weave in, but I've just found that that works great. It doesn't mess with anything, and I do it before beginning of round, so the beginning of round is smooth. That's just what works for me. So again, I'll try and add that video if I can find it of how I learned it. It was on YouTube, so let's see if I can get it done. But that is how I'll be joining in the round, and that's how I'll join the white to when I move to the green as well. All right, everybody, I will be back to share some progress. Okay, I came back much quicker than I thought, but I just added the white because I think you can see like where I'm holding the yarn double for a few stitches. Now here's the finished sock. This will be on my leg. If I hadn't pointed this out up really close, I can't tell. When I wear it, I can't tell. But here's the join on the finished sock. I mean, you can see where it dips down a little bit, but again, it's so minute. And there's a few stitches where I'm sure it's a little thicker, but I don't notice it at all. Actually, here is where the cast on, I just have to pull that. I don't notice it at all. I just feel like it's really secure and a great way to attach yarn. I still do even ends, but then I don't have to be in my head. Before I did it this way, I was worried like, oh my gosh, what if an end comes unraveled? I need to leave a really long tail so I can weave in all it was just a lot. So this has been helpful. All right, I will come back later. I'm just knitting around and coming back to that join that I do. So there's a double stitch. It's my first double stitch. What I do, you're kind of getting to see the back, which is fun. I hold the tail in my hand. I knit that first stitch that has the 2 yarns, and then I just pull slightly on the tail. I drop it, and I just keep on knitting. And I knit 2 of them, the double, like the 2 yarns held together. I'm calling it a double stitch. It's not. It's just the 2 yarns held together from the join. I'm just knitting them together as if they were 1 yarn. And now I'm at the end, and I'm going to pull that last yarn a little bit. And then I just keep on knitting, and I ignore it. And then at the very end of the project, I will weave those ends in. That's it. So it's super easy. I believe I've felt it super secure. I've done this now for I think almost a year. And I did knit like 60 socks last year. This year I'm a little bit slower. I don't know my count. I'd have to look on Instagram. I think I'm at 20 some odd socks for the year. But yeah, it just knits beautifully. I can't tell. And I feel really secure about that. So I'm going to keep going. And I will touch base probably when I'm done with this little white section and head back to the green in the main skein. It's the same join that I just did, but I'll probably share that with you too. I'll be back in a bit. Okay, so I'm to where I need to switch. Now, it's got a little bit more of the white. Here's the lighter blue. It's hard to see. It's got this much more of the white. But I don't know that it really matters, but in my head, I really like to make my color changes for yarn when it's not self-striping, when I'm actually like breaking yarn and doing that join. I like to do it on the back of the sock, not on the front of the sock. So I will be breaking it just a little bit earlier than I could, but that's fine. And then I'm going to just wind this up a little bit, and then I'm going to pop it right back into the center of the ball. And then I'm gonna find my green and attach it just like I did earlier. So I loop them over each other, and actually there's a little bit of white on this, so maybe I'll pull it so that I can have a few more white stitches. Maybe you'll never even know. So I loop them and join them around each other. I hold the tail in my left hand, and then I knit some stitches, and I'm just going to keep knitting. And at the join, here comes the join, or where they're looped together, I just treat it like yarn and just keep knitting. I don't do anything particularly special. I just keep right on knitting. And I typically like to knit 3 stitches before that, like the join, and 3 stitches after. If I have more and want to do more, I can, but I don't have to. Oh, that worked out really good, actually. So the whole back ended up being white. Not that it matters because it's the back of my leg. So there's those stitches where the yarn is held together. And yeah, now I'm going to be working on the green. I probably will not be coming back for some time because I'm going to set this, well, I'm going to finish this round so I can pick up where I held the yarn double. I can pick that up, and that's just done. So I'll do one more round, and then I'm going to set this down and go outside and mow. Two of our trees out front, I don't know why, but the leaves are already falling down like it's the fall. It's crazy. So I need to blow the leaves first into the grass so that I can mow them up. I am the gardener. I'm not the best at it, but I get it done. So that is what I'm going to work on. And then, oh, and on a side note, I don't know if you've ever timed yourself, and it changes depending on, if I'm stressed, if I'm relaxed, if I'm distracted. But typically for me, everyone knits differently, so time yourself. But typically my rule of thumb is every 10 rows takes about 30 minutes. So that's just my rule of thumb. So if I have 50 rows before the heel, that's like 2.5 hours in my head that I kind of try and block off. The cuff, for 15-row cuff, that takes me usually about 45 minutes. With cast on, I would say, for the whole cast on and the whole 15-row cuff, I budget like an hour of time in my head. That usually works out pretty good. So yeah, I know I've got about, I don't even know how many rows I'm in now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 rows are almost done. So yeah, I've got about, I would say about 2 hours and 15 minutes left before the heel. So I'm gonna, as I said, try and get it done. Now that it's just straight stockinette stitching for the leg, this is what I will take to the musical today. Now, let me be clear. I do not knit during the musical, but we typically try and get to musicals 30 minutes in advance. Cece likes to read the program. I don't like to be stressed with traffic because I'm driving. I want to know I have plenty of time. Usually when you get there 30 minutes early, parking is pretty easy, which I like as well. I don't like to be stressed when I'm going to something like that. Oh, I just got past that join. I just pulled each one. No big deal. I don't even know that you noticed. So yeah, so when we're there early, that 30 minutes early, I will knit. And as I said, I usually get about 10 rows done. And then at intermission, I also typically knit. And the conversations that just strike up because I'm knitting, it's amazing. I really, really enjoy how lovely the knitting community is, but even non-knitters are like, those colors are great. I love that you can be doing this while you're waiting. Like, it's just the cutest thing. I adore knitting, and the conversations that get brought up because of it. So the whole knit in public day, like I knit in public all the time. So anyway, this will be the project that I bring because now it's at a point where I can chat with people and continue to knit. All right, that's it for right now. Depending on when we get home, if it's light out or not, I'll try and pop in and give you a sock update. But if not, I will in the morning. See you soon. I thought I would jump in. Okay, so I did go outside to mow. I got all my leaf blowing done. I got my front yard done, and I have a battery powered push mower, and it takes 2 charges to mow the whole lawn. But I don't know what I was thinking last time, maybe past self, a week ago, knew that Sock Week was coming. I left the battery like on the mower and not charging. And I've already burned out 1 battery, so I only have 1 left. And so I only got the front done. That's it. And then I'm like, okay, normally I get a good hour and 15 minutes with 1 charge, and I got 45 minutes of work done. So I came in and I got more knitting done while it's charging. That means in between church and musical, I'll need to mow, but that's okay because look at how much I got done. That's insane. So I ended up finishing, I got 10 rows before I walked out, and then I've done 1, 2, 3, 4 more rows. And now it's time to go get ready for church. But like that was this hidden, not hidden, but time I thought I was going to be out mowing, that I got to work on this beauty. So that made me unbelievably happy. Okay, and I wanted to share, I thought about this while I was mowing. For the leg of my socks, normally I'm anywhere from 45 rows to 65 rows, depending on the pattern and where I want the self-striping yarn to hit. So for this one, I chose to do 50 because, do you see the heel, toe, and cuff color, the mini that was sent by Freckled Whimsy, is right there. So the way that the yarn was when I cast on, I didn't want this heel, toe, and cuff color to be where this guy is. So for me, breaking at 50 allowed there to be 2 stripes, this like really cool light blue and the white before the heel, toe, and cuff color, and I just liked the way that looked. So that's why I only did 50 rows. Again, I'll go anywhere from 45 for my normal leg socks. My shorty socks, I've knit some. I'm kind of playing around with what does that look like to me. I do a longer heel, which we'll talk about when I get to it on this one. So I don't like to have like 10 rows of ribbing, 5 rows of leg, and then cuff. Like it just slips down on my leg. It doesn't feel good. So for me, the magic is I'll do 12 rows for a shorty, but then I'll still do 30 rows of leg, 25 if I'm feeling real edgy, depending on the color. That's a shorty for me. So a regular length or mid socks, 45, and then, 50, 60, 65 is very normal for me for a leg. For a plain vanilla sock. Vanilla is the new black. That's a completely different sock, and it's got completely different characteristics. I'll probably do a vlog for that too, if that's something you guys are interested in. I'm going to be knitting a ton of those with all of my Christmas socks that I'm knitting coming up. So I digress. I'm going to get going and go up and get changed and ready for church. And hair and makeup done, looking cute for church. And then I will share more progress. But I was so pleased with past self, who I didn't intentionally not try and charge the battery, but it worked out for Nitty Natty Sock Week. But the work all has to get done, so I'm still going to have to mow today. It's just happening at a different time. All right, everybody, I'll chat with you later. Hey, so I'm just popping in after church and I wanted to share with you because I had cast this on, but this is knit in a large size, so the numbers are not my normal numbers, and I cast on the wrong amount. And I didn't realize till I got back from church and I was working on this one. I'm like, this is wrong. So I had to rip out and restart. But the good news is it had me remember a small detail when I cast on correctly, which again wasn't this one. So for the normal Crazy Sock Lady vanilla pattern, I knit 64 stitches. That's my normal size, but I cast on 65 stitches. I cast on one more than what is needed. And then what I do is I slip when I'm ready and I make sure nothing's twisted, they're all facing the right way. I slip the first stitch over to the other needle, so like that extra stitch, I slip it over. I put my beginning of round marker in, and then I knit around. I place my counter at stitch 9. I have no idea, that's just what I do. And then halfway through my stitches, so for my normal sock, after 32 stitches, I place my second marker for like denoting my instep stitches and my heel stitches. Then I knit all the way to almost the beginning, and the very last stitch is typically purl stitch, and I purl 2 together, and that's how I resolve that extra stitch. And it just feels like it gives it a nicer top line, which if you're a knitter, you know what I mean. It just makes that a little slicker at the top when I purl those 2 together. So I thought I would include that because I didn't originally. So I guess ripping all this out was a good prompt so I can give you a more clear picture of what I do and the modifications I make. Again, I use the Crazy Sock Lady, Kayla Litton. I use her pattern, How to Knit Socks, on a 9-inch circular needle. And I mean, she's got a great video. It's like an hour and a half long. These are just my little tweaks that I do that I have found after knitting so many socks that work well for me, and I wanted to share. Okay, we're back from the musical. We saw Footloose tonight. It was really good. It was an hour and a half there because of traffic, and only about an hour and 5 or so minutes home on the way home. So it was nice to get home. We're losing daylight, so I'm just using my overhead light. So I apologize, it's not good, but I'm gonna get the heel done tonight, and I wanted to share with you how I do it and the little tweaks I made. Again, my base foundation is Kayla Litton from the Crazy Sock Lady, her pattern, vanilla socks on a 9-inch circular. There is a paid pattern, it's like $2, which I did buy, but you don't have to buy it. The whole thing is on YouTube and you can watch it and go step by step with her, which is why I'm okay sharing some of these details. And some of them are pretty generic. It's like a heel flap and gusset, a slip stitch heel flap and gusset's very standard. So I'm not giving away trade secrets or a paid pattern, in my opinion. Okay, so what I do, her pattern says on the row before your heel to knit the instep stitches, and then you start on the heels, which is like the 32 stitches on the back half, the heel half. You, when you're adding yarn, you would cut your main color, add your contrast color, and start with slip, knit, slip, knit, slip, knit. And then you purl back. And you do that. Her pattern says for 16 slip stitches, which is like 32 rows. Okay, here are the things I've learned, and they're not all that I have discovered. Some are great tips from my knitting ladies that I knit with every week because they're amazing ladies. So the latest, which then allows me, instead of having to weave in 4 ends, 2 for the main color and the contrast color at this point where the heel starts. And then when you're done, after you pick up the stitches along the gusset, you would have to weave in 2 at the point, the beginning of round point as well. So that's 4 ends to weave in. But if you make this modification, you only have 2 ends to weave in after a contrast heel. And as a girl who loves to weave in less ends, this was huge. So what you do is you knit that whole last round, including the heel stitches, and then you knit one stitch past the beginning of marker round. Then you slip that stitch that's past the beginning of the marker round. You slip the beginning of the marker round, and then you add your contrast color for your heel flap and gusset. Let's see. And then the first row, you just purl like you would any time in the pattern. You always purl the stitches. Now, on a side note, when I learned how to do, I don't purl, I knit onto my left-hand needle. I learned this when I was doing the first cowl. Now I'm even forgetting the name of it. It's where it looks like it's almost like basket weave. Oh goodness, if you know the name of that technique, let me know. It's not an easy one, but that's how I learned. I learned on a video, and that person didn't like purling because you had to keep flipping your work around and it took too much time. So she always knit onto her left-hand needle. So that's how I learned. I mean, I can purl, but I knit on my left-hand needle. That's how I do it. I don't turn my work. It's just what works for me. I also do my heel on my 9-inch circular. In the video with Kayla, she says that you can do it this way. That's how I learned it. I never did. I can't say I never did double point needles. I don't own them. I used them like once or twice, and it was in the beginning, the stitches kept falling off the needles would fall out of my fabric. It just wasn't a fit for me. Now there are people in our knitting group, that's all they do, and they love it because it's all they've known, and that's awesome. Some of the ladies have switched to 9-inch circulars, and then they just use double points for the heel because that's what's better for them, and that's awesome. There is no right or wrong way. I'm just giving you my tips and what I do. So I'm going to purl, I'm going to knit on my left-hand needle all the way across the heel stitches, which I've already started. And then when I get to the end, which would normally have been the beginning of the round, I'm now where the pattern would start. So then I'm gonna slip one, knit one, slip one, knit one, slip one, knit one, all the way across, and then purl. And I'm gonna keep following the pattern. Now the other change, I have a sock that's finished over here. Let me grab it. I apparently have a high instep. I never knew this about myself, but apparently I do. And I kept, oh, my sock blockers aren't close. So this point in my sock right here, which is what I'm working on right now, it's where the leg comes down and you start the heel flap and gusset. That point right there, when I only did a shorter heel, which is what the pattern's written for, that's the 17 or the 16 slip stitches, and then you pick up 17 along the gusset. That kept pulling for me, and I had like a big hole. Even when I like wove it in, how Kayla mentions, I had a big hole after wearing it. But when I do a longer heel flap and gusset, so I have 21 slip stitches on my heel flap and gusset, and then I pick up 22 stitches along the side so that I can have this, I pick up like an extra one, as Kayla explains in her video. That gives me, I decrease my stitches over 30 rounds. It just gives me a little more space over the instep and a little more space over this part of my foot. And it has worked like a dream. So if that has ever been an issue for you, I encourage you to try it. When I am using Freckled Whimsy, again, it comes with a 25-gram mini. And so I have plenty of yarn to make my extra heel. And I typically have yarn left over. Like when I was doing my Coziest Memory blanket, I could always do a square from my leftover contrast color. So those are my tips for the heels. I'm going to keep working on this. Timing wise, obviously, you don't have to time anything. My brain works that way, and I'm curious, and I like to know how long are things taking. To do the heel flap, gusset, and pick up stitches typically takes me, I want to say 45 minutes to an hour, right in there. So I am going to do that, and then I'm heading to bed tonight. I will touch base with all of you tomorrow. I don't think I'm going to have any tips, honestly. After the heel flap and the gusset, which is done just as she explains in the video, I just knit, 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 knit the length of my leg. I do so I knit I know the length of my foot, and I knit my foot until 2.5 inches less than the length of my foot, so that I have a little bit of negative ease. Then I put my toe on, and that's what works for me. Yeah, maybe I'll come back on when I'm doing the toe. I don't know, we'll see. But thanks so much for joining, and I will chat with you soon. Good morning. It is Monday morning. So I started the sock yesterday. This is for sock week. Sorry, my throat is scratchy, but it's in the morning, and I just worked on it, finished my heel turn, and I wanted to share with you what it looks like, because as I said, I do all of this on my 9-inch circs, and I have the extra long heel, so I do 21 slip stitches, which ends up being like an extra 10 rows from what Kayla, the crazy sock lady, does. And you can kind of see here, I still have my main color attached like we talked about. I will pick up the gusset stitches here. I pick up 22 gusset stitches, which then decreases over 30 rounds. But I just wanted to share what that looks like, because sometimes you don't know what that looks like. I just have to be careful not to lose my beginning of round marker. So I'll pick up the gusset stitches in my heel color for this side, and then as soon as that's done, I go back to my main color, and this is where I'll put on my fancy stitch marker, because that denotes where the heel ended, and then I can count my decreases, which happens on even rows only. So that is that. I just thought I would share, because it, always looks a little wonky, and I wanted you to see it on the 9-inch circs. All right, so I just picked up the gusset stitches and moved the marker in one stitch, and I wanted you to see how loose that first stitch is, because this is the one I knit before I started the heels at all. All you do is just pull it tight. That's it. It's so easy, so slick, and it also tightens up this stitch down here, which I know is hard for you to see, but I really like doing the heel as I described it, where you purl back across, because again, there's only these 2 ends to weave in. That's it. And it really tightens this up for me without me having to tighten it when I weave in the ends. So yeah, I'm going to knit my 9 stitches across. Okay, and then I'm going to my first sock, and I'm pulling off, I say special marker, but it's, one of my ones that's more, this is the clover one. It's only a 3-leaf clover though. So I'll move that over, and that'll denote, as I said, the beginning of my heel, like my gusset stitches pick up. So then I can easily count my decreases, and I decrease over 30 rows because I pick up 22 stitches. All right, everyone, I hope you are having a great day. I'm going to keep working on this, and I'll come back when I have more to share. Hey, I'm back. It's day 3, so this is Tuesday mid-morning, and I got all the way to the toe. I wanted to record this part, which is why I didn't finish in 2 days, and that is just fine. So these are the socks I'm knitting for Knitty Natty's Sock Week Challenge. So I'll definitely have this one sock done in the week, because this is only Sunday was day 1, 2, this is like the 3rd day. So I'm ready for the toe. Now I also want to say, I don't know if you remember, but at the beginning of this sock, I used yarn from the inside to get this white stripe, so I wouldn't have to like waste a bunch of yarn, pull off a bunch of yarn to make the stripes match. But in doing so, I was like 1 stripe short the whole time. And even in this, I have 73 stitches from where the heel, where the special marker went. my first sock, I have 73 stitches. This sock, I have 72 stitches. So I use my sock ruler and it works. The measurement works. So one row will not kill you. It will not make or break you. It is fine. When it's on your feet, you'll never know. So I did attach my sock, or the heels, toes, and cuff yarn that I am using. And I use that same joining method that I did before. So I have the two the two tails I'll weave in later. And I make sure that when I do that, my last 3 stitches, so I do that quite soon in the process. I do that with like 12 or 14 stitches to go is when I break yarn and do that join that we talked about. Because my last 3 stitches, I want those to be not 2 yarns held together. I want them to be just normal 1 yarn, so that when I do my decrease row, my knit 2 together isn't knit like 4 together because of those yarn held double, if that makes sense. I am going to go ahead. Okay, now toes, everyone does differently. I've not seen this before. This is only because I originally thought I was going to be a magic loop knitter, like when I started this in 2019, my sock knitting journey, and then it worked so horribly for me, I just stopped knitting socks because I'm not a magic loop girl. I know tons of people are. It's awesome if you are. It's just not me. But I do have 2 size 1 32-inch needles, and that's what I use for my toe. So I will use the first one and put the first half of the stitches, the 32 stitches, on this one, and I'll put the second on the second one, and that's how I do my toe. So let me do that and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so here's what it looks like after the first round decreases and the needles are long and they hang funky and funny. I typically only do toes at home. I typically don't do those like when I'm at Panera or we have a voice lesson I'm heading to here in a bit, because this is a lot. I mean, I can just, curl them up and throw them in a bag, but I typically just do this at home. So I actually need to get ready. I have to finish putting on makeup and get ready for my day. But I will come back later when the toe is done and show you what the inside of the sock looks like. I don't do anything special for weaving in ends, but I will show you what I do, and then we'll be done. All right, everybody, have a great little bit, and I'll be back. Hey, I'm back. Toe is complete, and it looks a little wonky here at the end, the way that Kayla from the Crazy Sock Lady describes it in the YouTube how to do it. This all gets resolved when you weave in the ends. But before I do that, I wanted to share, super nerdy, but like one of my favorite parts of knitting socks is when the Kitchener is done, but before the ends are woven in. I adore, on the second sock only, the first sock you leave all of the markers in so that you can take them off and put them on the second sock. But on the second sock, when it's done and you get to take all the markers off, it's like one of my favorite parts of sock knitting. That and like putting them on for the first time. That's really fun too. So those are the tips and tricks so far, and I appreciate you coming along. I will turn the sock inside out and show you all the ends, which there aren't too many. That's like the beauty of self-striping sock yarn, is that you get the really awesome color changes without having to weave in all of the ends. Like if I had used minis, 6 different minis, and like a undyed skein, you could get the same effect for sure, but oh my gracious, the ends. And a lot of people knit scrappy socks and have a ton of ends to weave in, and I've knit scrappy socks before. I don't know, there's just something about self-striping yarn that takes that stressor out of it, I guess, for me. It just allows me to enjoy knitting, which I'm really grateful for. All right, 2 more markers, and then I can turn her inside out. Okay, so no big secret by any means. I just put my hand in and put my fingers at the tip where I'm going to put it in, and you'll see there's a Kayla. I say Kayla, that's what I've heard her called both. I don't know her personally. We're Instagram friends, and I think she's amazing. So you just put the yarn through, put the needle through, and then I'll turn it inside out. When I first knitted socks, I was very gentle with them. And not like I'm ripping anything out, but you don't have to be super gentle either. Okay, so I will weave that end in. Then I've got the two. They're already, the way that I do that join, they're already secure. I just keep them in. And then I've got the two, only two from the heel, and I'll weave those in on this ridge that the pickup stitches make. That's where those will go. And then I've got the cast on edge, and then I have 4 up here because I added that 1 row of white from the inside of the ball of yarn. That's it. So I'm weaving in ends, and then the sock is done. Thanks again for joining me. I so appreciate it. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, message, I try to respond. Yeah, I hope you are having a great day, and I'll chat with you guys soon.